When can you say that something is so dark, so damaging, that in almost 60 years, we've never been able to actually see it on screen? Now, we've had a couple of these things in Star Trek, hence there's been a list. What are you thinking? Are you thinking the full Battle of Wolf 359? Are you thinking, oh, I don't know, something like World War III? Well, I mean, just keep watching the news and we might be nearly there with that one. But no, that's not what this list is. These are the things that, like the aforementioned Wolf 359, maybe have been seen in part in Star Trek or referenced only in dialogue. We now also have something else to contend with, temporal shift. As we discovered in Strange New Worlds, temporal agents have been changing little things here and there in history, so that we don't really know anything anymore. With that in mind, I'm Sean Ferrick for TrekCulture, and here are the 10 darkest Star Trek moments that you've never seen. Number 10. The burn. The actual explosion of the burn has been shown in, I think, an unintentionally hilarious way in Star Trek Discovery. Honestly, you just see a whole bunch of starships just hovering there, and then boom, they all explode. I shouldn't laugh. It's a little bit funny. Now, once you've accepted that the burn happened and the somewhat hilarious reason as to why the burn happened, there is actually a fascinating thing that we've never seen. What is the immediate fallout of this cataclysmic event? Suddenly, warp drive as we know it can't be used anymore, so how do Star Trek ships get around? Well, with a few lines of dialogue sprintered here and there, we know that there are other things that can't be done. So really, space travel has been fundamentally affected. What then do the alpha and beta quadrants look like? Is there a fundamental shift in power? Is suddenly something that doesn't use dilithium, like, oh, I don't know, the Romulans, able to pick up where Starfleet left off? Well, okay, some of that's been explained away with what was going on with the Romulans, but what happens when everyone's favourite collective just isn't there anymore? Star Trek Picard actually offered a little bit of a template for this. Look at the rise of the Fenris Rangers around what used to be called the neutral zone, because Starfleet just couldn't patrol anymore. What would this look like when given 100 years to develop? Is the universe a much darker place now? Well, possibly yes. Number 9. The Breen assault on Earth. In the later days of the Dominion War, or to put it another way, toward the end of DS9's 7th season, we saw the Breen enter the Dominion War on the side of the Dominion. This was the most time that we had then spent with the Breen, so we were going to see lots of really cool things, right? Well, sort of. We did see some of the space battles which still leave a chill running up and down our spine. I miss you, Defiant. But what we don't see is the actual Breen assault on Earth that opens the episode The Changing Face of Evil. We see the devastation wrought by the Breen, we see the destruction visited on the Golden Gate Bridge, we see Starfleet headquarters heavily damaged. We don't actually see the assault. There's a couple of reasons for this. One is the budget of the late 90s. It had to be used sparingly, and we had, season finales to deal with, so there's that. But also, it left this terrifying impression in the viewer's mind. The episode opens with a Breen fleet attacking Earth, and we're going to see the aftermath. So we know that when the Federation and Klingon and Romulan Alliance go to meet the Breen with the Dominion in the Chakotay system, there's reason to worry. It was dark, and those Breen weapons seriously taught us all to fear those bounty hunter helmeted folk. Number 8. Wolf 359. Perhaps the most famous battle in Star Trek history is conspicuous in how much of it we haven't seen. Now, we have explored the fallout of Wolf 359 rather a lot. For example, we have seen the entire arc of Jean-Luc Picard afterwards, and that has gone right up into Picard's 3rd season. We've seen the entire jumping off point of Deep Space Nine, knowing that Sisko was aboard the Saratoga and lost Jennifer. And again, more recently, we've seen Liam Shaw's PTSD when it comes to his memories of Wolf 359 as well. The opening scene of Emissary gave us the most of the battle that we had seen thus far. We saw that ships like the Springfield, the Chekhov, the Tolstoy, and of course the Saratoga were just hopelessly outgunned, despite all the preparation that Starfleet had been doing since Q-Who. It's perhaps unlikely that we'll ever see the full battle realized in one of the current Star Trek series, but there is hope. The YouTube channel JTFX has produced a fantastic fan production of the battle that you can find on YouTube. And also there is the Wolf 359 project, which is an online portal of stories, a bit like survivors' accounts of the Dark Day as well, which again, do check that out online. Both of those will probably be the most complete version of the battle that we're ever going to see. Number 7, the Tarsus Colony massacre. The Tarsus 4 incident links two Star Trek series together and also served as a bit of inspiration for a recent Mad Purple God in cinema. You might have seen him. James T. Kirk and Hoshi Sato were both residents of Tarsus 4 when an ecological disaster sent the colony into famine. The then governor, Kodos, ordered that half of the colony's residents would be executed so that the remaining half could have access to ample supplies of food. Kirk and his family were spared, while Hoshi Sato's weren't. The Federation colony should have had everything. We were living in a post-scarcity world. So, for something this awful to happen, so many things had to have gone wrong. What would this look like? How would it be explained and depicted? If we think about the year that it happened, unfortunately Archer would have passed away at that point, but T'Pol, for example, would still be alive. How would T'Pol react to the news that Kodos, charged with protecting the colony, put her friend Hoshi to death? There are still so many questions as to what happened on that colony, and with the death of Anton Karidian, the new identity of Kodos the Executioner, many questions about what happened died with him. Number 6, the Tomed incident. The Tomed incident refers to actions that were taken to cease hostilities between the Federation and the Romulan Empire in the years following the Khitomer Accords. An Ivarix-class Romulan warbird crashed into a Federation colony on the planet Tomed. Now, they are powered by forced quantum singularities, so when that exploded, it killed thousands of Federation citizens. This was enough to inspire the Klingons to take the Federation's side, completely outnumbering the Romulans. This led to the signing of the Treaty of Algeron. Now, there's one little thing about what I've just said. The whole thing was a fabrication by Starfleet. The thousands of dead and the ship, the USS Agamemnon, that had been destroyed, had already been killed through various natural, unnatural, documented ways. They were in fact being reused in death as a way of ending hostilities. No one actually died in the Tomed incident, despite what the history books say. It's a fascinating exploration into just how far some elements of Starfleet will go in the name of peace. One last point on that is that Captain John Harriman was a major player in this incident. Now that Succession has come to an end, Alan Ruck might be looking for work, so come on Star Trek, now's the time. Number 5, the Cronan Guard. Captain Rudy Ransom was a decorated Starfleet captain when his ship, the Equinox, was, much like the USS Voyager, swept from the Alpha Quadrant all the way to the Delta Quadrant by the Caretaker. Things went a little bit different for the crew of the Equinox though. While Voyager ran into the Kazon and the Ocampa but escaped pretty intact from that, the Equinox met the Cronan Guard. The Equinox entered the Cronan Guard's territory despite warnings not to. Ransom gave the order to continue. The Cronan Guard then attacked, resulting in the deaths of half of the Equinox crew. As Ransom said, they never really recovered from that and had been limping their way through the Delta Quadrant for several years afterwards. This led to some pretty horrific decisions by Ransom and the crew of the Equinox that saw, well, Starfleet's reputation take a little bit of a kicking. Although what the Equinox did afterwards is unforgivable, seeing this attack by the Cronan Guard could go an awful lot to help ease some of their reputations in Starfleet history. Number 4, the massacre at Khitomer. We've seen Camp Khitomer in Star Trek VI: The Undiscovered Country. You know that building, you know it from Descent, and quite frankly, you know it from Power Rangers. Star Trek VI, despite as dark as it gets in some parts, does look like it's going to be one of the brighter beginnings to a period of history. Enter the Romulans. The Duras family and Duras's father, Jarod, had been conspiring with the Romulans for some time. Jarod provided the Romulans with security codes that helped them easily overcome the defenses at Khitomer, leading to a massacre. Jarod is killed along with Moog, the father of Worf. This would be a watershed moment for Klingon-Romulan relations. It was a sneak attack, as Romulans are wont to do, and would lead to open hostilities between the two powers for decades to come. The massacre is discussed in great detail when Duras, son of Jarod, is running for Chancellor of the High Council, after having previously been discussed when Moog is blamed for this collaboration with the Romulans. There is another reason to visit Khitomer, outside the massacre, is that we've met so few members of Worf's biological family. We've met his grandfather, Colonel Worf, who was the fairly ineffectual council who was defending Kirk and McCoy in Star Trek VI, and of course we've met his brother Kurn. We've never actually met Moog. It would be lovely to finally meet one of the most famous Klingon names we've never seen. For an event that's so monumentally important in Star Trek history, it's baffling that we've never actually seen a second of it. Number 3. The Dominion retaliation against the Cardassian people. I know, cheerful list this, innit? In What You Leave Behind, the Cardassians switch sides, effectively beginning a complete uprising against the Dominion, both in terms of their fleet turns against the rest of the Dominion ships, but also on the ground, the locals begin fighting back against the Jem'Hadar. The Jem'Hadar, of course, famously known for being chill about that sort of thing. Well, let's put it this way. The opening volleys see the destruction of Lucarian City. Millions of people are killed. This inspires more Cardassian rebellions, which then inspires 800 million dead, with the numbers still rising. The Dominion itself had accounted for the resistance by the Federation, by the Klingons, by the Romulans, and in bringing the Breen into their alliance, thought that they would be able to balance the power scales. They didn't account for the pride of the Cardassian people, and with every insult they visited against their allies, they were losing more and more support. With the uprising came a brutal retaliation, possibly from aerial bombardment, but certainly from door-to-door soldiers. Buildings are destroyed, the streets are littered with Cardassian dead, and the number was still rising even as the female changeling surrendered herself to the Federation alliance. This is one of the most horrific off-screen Trek events that's happened, even if we saw some of the outcome while Martok takes his drink. Number 2. World War III. From the franchise's earliest days, Gene Roddenberry wrote that the human race would go through hell and come out the other side. Hell, he reckoned, would be World War III, which would occur in the 21st century. First contact would follow about 10 years after World War III, so good news everyone, we still get to look forward to it. As the years have passed and real time has caught up to the supposed dates of World War III, we have a little bit of hope that maybe it won't happen. For example, the eugenics wars never happened in the 90s. And according to Strange New Worlds, the eugenics wars developed into the Second American Civil War and then into World War III. If the first of those things never happened, hopefully that's a good sign for everything else. The Romulan agent, known only as Sarah, pretty much confirms what Pike was saying that because of the actions of temporal agents, such massive events like the birth of Khan, for example, were pushed back by almost 50 years. This was history attempting to align itself again. It does remain to be seen if April 5th, 2063 will remain the date of first contact, but one thing has never changed in Star Trek. For as bright a future as we will get to, that war is coming. Number 1. The Setlik III massacre. The massacre on Setlik 3 was so awful that it haunted the hearts of Starfleet officers for years to come. Now, we see Miles O'Brien dealing with it in episodes like The Wounded and Tribunal, and also in episodes like Paradise mention some small positives that he personally was able to take out of it, such as some of his engineering skills. But we do know as well that it was so dark that it was able to turn a decorated Starfleet captain into a rogue. The first Cardassian wars were, when one compares them to the Dominion War, basically skirmishes, with the Setlik 3 attack being one of the minor engagements of these wars. However, it was so bad to be a part of that Captain Benjamin Maxwell could not put it behind him. To be fair to Maxwell, even O'Brien couldn't put it behind him in the beginning. As he sat across from a Cardassian soldier trying to make small talk in The Wounded, O'Brien says, "It's not you that I hate, Cardassian. It's what I became because of you." Setlik 3 will be mentioned several times in Deep Space Nine. While it may be a difficult thing to watch, it does seem like a core event in Star Trek's history and something that does deserve depiction on screen. That is everything for our list today, folks. Thank you so much for watching along, and I hope this hasn't been too depressing. I hope you're okay. You're awesome, you're wonderful. Please make sure that you're following us on the various socials. And something I haven't said for a while, thank you so much to everyone who's been subscribing. This is bonkers. We really never believed we would get this high in the beginning, and it makes the absolute world of difference to us. So thank you so much. I have been Sean Ferry. You can catch me on the various socials. Make sure you're following @TrekCulture. Live long and prosper till I see you again. Concentrate on nice things for a while. Thanks very much.